All right, so I've had a couple of requests to take a closer look at my tillering setup that I've got here. So I'm just gonna walk you through this real quick. This is something I made myself. For my bottom pulley, basically you can just take a pulley and mount it down here. But if you do that, it's kind of loose and flops around a little bit. So what I did was take the roller out of a pulley and then I welded up this little bracket here so that it mounts solid to the wall, and just run my rope down through there so that there's not any gaps here between the sides, so your rope can't get off and get stuck in between the bracket and the pulley itself. Up here, so I guess, I don't know, this is probably 4.5 feet or so off the ground. What I've got here is just a cradle that's mounted to the wall, and I've got it made with 1x Doug fir, pretty heavy duty stuff. I wouldn't make it with something real light because you're putting quite a bit of pressure on this thing when you're pulling these bows to full draw. But I've got it mounted so that it holds the bow off the wall about 1 inch, so that when you pull on this thing that your limbs aren't scraping against the wall. Another thing that you'll notice about this is, instead of right up here where the bow sits, instead of it being a squared off flat surface, I've got it rounded. And so you'll also notice that I put my bows in here off center. So that rounded part, if you can look through this piece right here that's just holding it, you would see that it was rounded just like this. And the reason I want it like that is because that, where I set this bow on this tillering rack, corresponds with where the pressure point of my hand is going to be on this bow. And when I hold a bow and shoot, most of the pressure is right up here at the base of my thumb. I don't put I don't heel into the bow with the base of my palm at all. And so by basically mirroring how I hold the bow on this tillering rack, I'm able to get a better understanding of how that bow is bending when I shoot it. I do have a piece of rubber, just inner tube material on this thing, just to give it a little bit, it sticks a little bit better, so if you do get things kind of off center a little bit, your bow's not going to slide off. And then I've got, for this rope, I've got probably 20 feet of rope or so that I can stand back and give it a pull. And then I've just got a little S hook on here that I hook to the string. Now, it is helpful, I've got a little screw right here. It is helpful to put something, a peg or something, so that when you put your bow on here, if you're putting a bow on here with a real low brace height, or you haven't raised your brace height, if you're early in the tillering process, you might have one that's only got a brace height of like 3 inches or so, and it's going to be, your string's going to be way up here. It's really helpful, especially if you're tillering a bow with a bunch of reflex or recurve or something like that, to be able to pull that string down and hook it on that peg to hold it in place. Because otherwise, if your string comes up here, and you've got a bunch of reflex in that thing, it can be hard to keep it on the tillering rack while you walk back there to pull on that rope. Other than that, that's basically it. It's really simple. If you've got a place to build one, they come in really handy. I really like a tillering rack like this as opposed to a board where you would pull the bow down, hook it on a notch, and leave it bent. I don't like to leave them bent. And this is just a really nice setup, easy to make, and cheap. Didn't cost me anything.